Joining me now is Congresswoman Laurel Lee. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be with you again. Thanks for having me.
Of course, you just came back from a visit to the border, and this comes at a really historic time. The trip came as the number of migrant encounters at the border reached a historic high in December at over 300,000. So before we dive in, can you tell us about the trip and tell us what you saw?
So we had the opportunity to see firsthand the crisis that's facing the southern border. We talked to local law enforcement, we talked to sheriffs, ranchers, people who live in those communities, and they told us the stories about how this crisis has been affecting them in very real terms. And for some of them, their property, their businesses have been destroyed. And when it comes to law enforcement and first responders, they simply don't have the resources to respond to the surge in calls, the surge in community needs. It has really been catastrophic at border towns. And then, of course, as we know, one thing that we've seen over time is that this flow of migrants across our southern border has made really every city in America a border city. We're all being affected now by things like fentanyl trafficking and human trafficking and some of the other, really terrible things that are a consequence of what amounts to, at this point, lawlessness at our southern border.
I want to talk about a phrase that you used, that every city in this country is now a border city, and we've been hearing that a lot. Every state is a border state. A lot of my viewers don't live in a border state. I don't right now. I live in New York. So can you tell us what is missing from the conversation in these states that might not be seeing this, might not be living this every single day?
Well, one of the most important things is for Americans to understand the magnitude of this problem, that this isn't just a few people, this isn't just a short-term thing, this is millions of people coming across our border illegally, and it has really been happening throughout the Biden administration. They made decisions early on to reverse some of the policies that we knew were working, and what it has led to is just unchecked crossings at our southern border. And as we were hearing down on this recent trip, there are impacts across any sort of social service, schools, hospitals, law enforcement. The increase in the demand, the number of calls, and the strain on resources is incredibly significant. And the other thing that's important to remember is that, the people who are coming across the border, in many cases, are coming across owing huge sums of money to people who trafficked them to the United States, and then, of course, unable to obtain lawful employment. So this is a dangerous situation, not just for the United States. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what their intentions are. But it's also a dangerous situation for many of these migrants who have chosen to come across illegally instead of following the lawful pathway to coming to the United States. So it's a very serious situation now for all of our states in the country, and something that we are really committed to trying to address here in Congress.